Okay, everything's green. So, hello everybody, and welcome to this new ADA meetup for April. And today with us here we have Joachim, who has very kindly volunteered to show his ADA bindings to the WolfSSL library that I talked about last month. And he has a bit of new work that he would like to show us, and also there are a few updates with from my side and from another person's side, Dali, who has been also improving the binding quite a bit. Then I'll talk a bit more about ADA Europe, the conference. We have some very nice news that came in last month. Yeah, Joachim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have so many thoughts, so I'm just gonna share my thoughts. I feel a bit unstructured, but anyways, so first I want to talk about the WolfSSL binding. You can see my screen, I guess. So what we're talking about here is on GitHub, the WolfSSL company. They have the repository here at WolfSSL, and to find the ADA binding, you need to go to wrapper, and then under the ADA subdirectory, and there we have the ADA code, and this is made for Spark. So I got the impression that WolfSSL is mostly used in embedded. So when designing this ADA binding, I really try to use as little as possible from the the ADA standard library. Like no secondary stack, and such things. What I want to demonstrate also, here is what it contains here in this ADA binding here, two examples. It's TLS client example and a TLS server, just example. This past few days, Fernando and Daily Brown has been developing this ADA binding, and I can just make a short demonstration of how it looks. So I wasn't going to talk a lot about this particular ADA binding, but what I did in parallel, because we are 3 people who have been working on this ADA binding to WolfSSL. And my what I've been looking into lately has been making an ADA binding that is cross-compiler. So that's kind of what I just want to demonstrate, that I've actually made a proof of concept that it is possible to make a cross-compiler ADA binding, because the official one here in WolfSSL, it's Spark specific. It has Spark notations, and another ADA compiler cannot probably parse Spark code. In any case, so the examples is that you start the server application and it's waiting for a connection, and then you connect with your client. This is weird. /TLS client, and then you should enter the I think Daily Brown, in his latest pull request, he has changed this TLS implementation to also include ADA binding to DTLS. And I could see that the API, how to use this client application, has changed a bit. So this is I think his pull request hasn't been merged into the master branch just yet. So, but this is the old one. Anyways, so you connect, and you can send message to the server, and this is encrypted, this connection. And then when you send the shutdown command, that's when you shut down the server. So this is what we have in the WolfSSL Git repository today. And what I was looking into, if one looks at the code here this is my binding. If one looks at the Spark implementation for example, I've used for like as a byte, I've used like this interfaces.c.char, C characters for bytes. But if one looks at the standard library, bytes are usually represented by stream elements or stream element arrays for byte arrays. So I did one. I want to demonstrate it. This thing here is in the way. Sorry about that. So
You can hide it if you want.
hide it. Ah, yeah, you're right. You're right. Didn't see that. Thank you. So, well, or actually one can see it here in the GPS. This is the one that I've been working on, and the Spark version, it returns error codes, you could say, or like an enumeration type that says, did it go well or not to run a specific command. But in standard ADA, you're kind of supposed to use exceptions instead. So in this like ADA 95 version, I've been like working on converting these enumeration error types, messages to, exceptions instead. And one can see here that I have removed from the Wolf SSL ADA binding, the contracts pre and post conditions are not present in this code anymore. And I want to find my window again. Yeah, and to build the code, like the client, I have created this build batch script, and it uses the Janus ADA compiler, and it specifically builds all the source code. And in the end here, it builds the Wolf ADA binding in ADA 95. In any case, and I think so. I'm building the server here on the left side, and I'm gonna build the client on the right hand terminal. So, and I just think it's a bit fun that because usually we're using the GNAT compiler, and I think rarely we see usage of the Janus ADA compiler. So I think it's good to fun to just demonstrate it. And these scripts, they're gonna make something called it's gonna make something called main.exe. That's what we're gonna have in the end. And so, yeah, the server side is finished here. And so I can start the server. Yeah, and it's waiting for a connection. Then the right-hand side here, the client is also finished. So we can run that on our .0. So, and then you can send messages just like before. And so you can shut down the server as well. So so I think that's where we are right now. I think, Fernando, you have been working on making possible to put it in Alir, the Alir repository, and I think Daily Brown has been adding the DTLS support. And then I have this ADA 95 version. I don't think it's really my kind of version I've been working with. It's not ready to be kind of shared. I can put it on the internet as is if somebody wants to look at it. But I think that's the status of our Wolf SSL binding. And actually, Fernando, I was curious to see a demonstration because you put up like a test in Alir. And I would like to see how could you test it that it works in Alir, because you put it, I think.
Here are the nice things about what we've all been doing. So first things first, I you said that in the standard ADA, the the way that errors are transmitted are with the use of exceptions instead of like result types or enumeration types. But Spark doesn't really like exceptions, so normally we would try to not use them. But I'm happy to say that GCC 14 with the new exceptional contract and the new improved Spark should be able to handle some exceptional contracts. The changelog for GCC 14 is still not up. I still have to say that. So this information, unless you've been following GCC closely, this is still not compiled into the actual changelog. And secondly, yes, I can show you my my work. Let me share my screen. Share. Okay, you can tell me when you see it. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then. So I've been working to try to integrate Wolf SSL into Allir to make the consumption and the use of this binding and library much easier, and with just a simple Allir with command, Wolf SSL command, that anybody could just start using it. There is still a lot of work that needs to be done in order to properly finalize what I've started, but if we go into the wrapper ADA bindings, I've already submitted a PR, which is still under review, and I created an alert manifest here, and basically I started adding what's needed for the new version, etc., etc., and I had to create a proper library GPR file, as currently the public version of the library, the bindings is just a normal project that builds the server client that Joachim just showed us. This turns it into a proper library that can be consumed. So after a bit of fiddling and playing around, yesterday I managed to finally get Allir publishing working. So yeah, basically I did a test. If you go into the Allir index GitHub repository, you can see the test I just did. I should actually not do this right now because otherwise it's going to strain my network. But it just builds it. So if I do Allir build, okay, it's already built. So you can see it builds all the Wolf SSL files. Here, the ADA files too, with the Spark contracts here also. And at the end, we get a static archive that then could be consumed and used by whatever program you're working with. I think this is a great thing for a couple of reasons. Once again, as I said, easy consumption, that's in Allir, but also Wolf SSL, when you pay and you do things right, it's a certified SSL implementation, and that's a very valuable piece of technology, which we now have very easy access to with this Allir bindings that Joachim created. So I'm very, very thankful. But anyway, so once I get everything here set up, my changes will get merged with the main Wolf SSL source code. You can see here the actual PR. It's still in draft mode, but here we discuss a few things. And I am waiting for Daily because he has also been working on this, quite adding support for the DTLS implementations so that they can also be used within ADA. So once he gets his files in merged, I will rewrite a little bit the Allir support so that you can pass, so that the directory structure is what would be more common in Alert. And let me just show you here. And then I will try to automate the Spark proving with cannot proof, so that it becomes a dependency. And I will also try to expose some of the WolfSSL configuration options within Alert, because as Joachim said, WolfSSL is used quite a bit in embedded systems, and you want to select which ciphers, which functionality you want to have, because you want just to target those features, but also mostly because you want to reduce the size of the library to what you will use. Otherwise, it may not fit within the device that you're working with. So yes, you can also find the test I did yesterday. As I said, I don't want this PR to be merged. This is just a test, but it's good progress that we're moving along. And I'm very happy to see that we are starting to get some industrial support within the ADA community. I think this is quite important. And yeah, so this is, once again, this is what I should turn off my dark mode so you can see it better. So this is WolfSSL, and most of their tools are open. So obviously, WolfSSL, WolfGrid is the one we are talking about, but they also have some security focus, a lot of other security focus tools like Wolfwood and TPM, Trusted Processing Modules. I believe that's what TPM stands for, and they are all open under their repository, their GitHub account. So yeah, I'm very happy to see that we're improving the state of open source and also the state of industry tool. And I'm very happy also to see Spark being used within safety, within security, within critical applications such as encryption, so that if the C code has been proven and certified, we can also prove that the consumption of the C code within ADA is also verifiable. So I'm very happy to see that. And yeah, also very huge thanks to Joachim for the initial support, and huge thanks also to Daily. By the way, if you don't know Daily, he has been working with a Spark for a while. He has been doing a bit of work with I can find it now, well, like NAT coverage, but also record flags and things like that. So he knows his stuff with the Spark too. So once again, I'm very happy to see this moving along, and I'm helping. So as a conclusion, in a while, not yet, but in a while, you should be able to just use Alert and use the WolfSSL library quite directly and easily. So that's our goal. My goal was to make sure that it has no friction. There is no friction to use and consume the libraries that we have available in the ADA community, which I think it's a major pain point for new people and also for advanced people. It's sometimes the ADA ecosystem has the tools we need, but they are just not simple to use. So that's all from my side with regards to WolfSSL. So if you would like to talk more about it, and I'm most interested in your motivation to start with the binding, and how did you manage to how did you find Spark?
How I found Spark? Well, that's a long time ago. I think I was working at Saab many years ago, and there I encountered the ADA programming language, and somehow I liked the language. Yeah, does everybody hear me? By the way, yes. Yeah, great. Yeah, so I liked the language, and I got involved. I was what was it? was I president of Ada Sweden 2 years or something, or chairman? That's the name, chairman of Ada Sweden. But I really like the language, so I've been following Spark since it came out 2014. And back then, I remember that, yeah, the first versions, it was kind of easy to find bugs to report. But right now, it's an extremely mature tool chain. Very hard to find bugs nowadays, I think. Yeah, so I have lots of experience with the language. I think, like, and why I look into this Ada 95 stuff when the coolest thing right now is kind of Spark. So that's a good question as well. I don't know, somehow I'm thinking about, like, when I use Spark, I also at the same time like to know, like, okay, when the language came out in like 1983, you know, what was the ideas, the fundamental ideas of the language, and how has it, you know, the usage of it changed during time. Yeah, and there's not a lot of, I think, material on the internet, you know, blog posts about that. So I thought it's kind of interesting to look into that. And the Wolf SSL, how I came into that, it was from the forum, you know, -ada, was the Ada forum. I don't remember the name right now, but somebody wrote in January or February, more than a year ago, that Wolf SSL, they had put up a blog post that they were thinking about making an Ada binding. So I wrote to them that, you know, if there are, yes, that's right. That's the forum. Well, so I wrote to them that if there is any questions, you know, I gladly support and help, you know. And then they kind of asked me if I could do it, you know, like if I could do it paid. So, but I really didn't have the time to do it at all. So I just said, if you have questions, I gladly answer, but I can't get involved. And that's actually why I'm so happy that you've engaged, you know, you, Fernando and Daily Brown, because you're like, I'm so busy. I love to do it, but I'm really pressed for time. So I said, no, thank you. But, and then in June, they asked me if, are you sure that you don't want to do it like paid? So, and I thought, and I had vacation in July, 4 weeks of vacation. I thought, if I can take 1 week of vacation to do something. So that's what I did. I put a week of work in July, and that's the embryo, that's the start of it. And since that time, I think we've had a blog post about it, and now this Ada binding has taken a life of its own. And well, I'm just here to support and hopefully contribute some code as well. But yeah. So that's how it got started. Any more questions? Thanks.
Yeah, could you elaborate on the kind of properties that you were able to prove with Spark?
When I think about it, I think about it, I have been thinking about it like exception-free code that one can read it upside and down, and the Spark tool just checks that I'm not triggering any kind of exceptions during runtime. But lately, yeah, exception support has been included in Spark. I haven't tried it out yet, but I do know in the latest version of Spark it's possible. But no, I kind of mostly think that when you specify minimum and maximum of your variables, that you're not going outside of the intervals. I think that's what I mostly think about, that it has proven. Oh yes, another thing which was in the design here, that when you open up a socket, you should always close it. And that is actually, I think, in the current version of the Spark binding, is that it's, there's a post condition. Let me see if I can I share my screen again?
Sure.
Yeah. No. So I'm gonna see. Yeah, so I'm opening up the client.gpr here. I want to find the main file for this. Ah, yes. So in the main application here, for example, I put here in the post conditions that, like the client socket should have been deallocated or shut down when this subprogramming exits. And we should have like deallocated the SSL context as well that is in Wolf SSL. So I kind of by putting this post condition here, that's how I make sure that Spark, makes sure that everything is like deallocated. I think in the latest version of Spark, you can actually say that, tell it that, this private type is actually a resource and it has to have given back the allocated resource before finalizing or during finalization. So that's one of the things that Spark checked. So it doesn't, in the current version, it doesn't check it automatically, but you give it enough information to be able to check that you've given back all the resources the application has used. More questions?
Weston, do you have a question?
No, not a question though, but I just want to say thank you very much for creating the binding, and I like the fact that you created an 8.95 one, because like I know like where I used to work at, a lot of projects they used the Green Hills compiler, and it's still limited to 95 last time I checked. So like having an 8.95 binding, would just make it easier to utilize something like that. So I think it's great, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for all your interest. Thank you.
Luke had a question that he wrote in the chat. He says, you mentioned compiler or cross compiler. Which one it is?
Where did I mention?
At the very beginning.
What?
Maybe you were trying to say a compiler in a different standard or something.
It was to do with generation of something. I'm sure you mentioned a compiler for generating source.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but
Oh yeah, in the beginning when you were speaking, you had used the term cross compiler. So
yes, that's true, because that it should so the ADA95 ADA binding, it's to that you can change ADA compiler and it should still work. So that's what I meant by cross compiler. To make the code cross compile.
Also, do you plan to have the 8.95 binding along, to also build, or I guess maybe this is more a question for Fernando. Do you think you'll also include the building of the 8.95 binding as well?
That was one of the questions I was interested in. Like, do we want it? Then I can put it. So
I think it would be good because again, not every company is using an ADA compiler, GNAT compiler, for example. So, and like where I used to work at, Green Hills was used on a lot of projects.
So I gladly put it up. So I think we should just all agree in which subdirectory I should put it. I think it won't be, because currently we're using GPR build and Alir. It's extremely nice. I mean, to build it, I think I will need to add a README file on how to build it, because I think it's more difficult because if you switch to compiler. But I'm gonna add a README.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, because if you're using Alir and GPR, then you already have GNAP. But yeah, so if you're using like Greenhouse, you wouldn't be using a Lyre at all. That's a good point.
I think Alir can be used to kind of get it down very easily, the source code on your computer, and then you can just take the source code and build it with another compiler. But yeah.
And just as a minor note, I was aware of this, but yesterday it was the first time that I faced this. Since this code, WolfSSL, is related to encryption, and it has to just work correctly, and it has to look into a lot of different aspects like constant time properties and return values and clean up after memory and everything. You need to be very careful with what compiler options you put during the compilation of the C code and also the ADA code. Yesterday I did a mistake and I deleted a few compiler options that Joachim had written, and then during the compilation there were pragmas just warning me about, hey, make sure to add sanitization to your compiler to make sure that this code actually works as expected within like safety standards. So just leaving that comment out.
I have talked with Fabien Chouteau, and he has written a library called LVGL library for like generating, I think this user settings.h, that one. I think one can configure it using the TOML file, and then Alir will auto-generate the user settings file. But he gave that as feedback for us.
Then I will look into it. Thank you. So, any more questions regarding WolfSSL? Then, if not, I would like to talk a little bit about something that some of you may be aware of, some of you may not be aware of, and that would be that a Russian guy, I'm going to butcher his name, Rethnik, Rexim, he has been building a game using Ada and the Raylib library, which is a graphics library that has a lot of functionality for game programming. So I will talk about this during the Ada Europe conference. I would like to bring this topic out, but I've been watching it. Well, everything. I've been watching his entire streams, and they are between 3 and 4 hours each video, and he has like 23 of them, so be aware. But something very interesting has been happening, and is that he has a big following. He's not an influencer, not the same, not in the way that we understand it now, in like social media. He has been doing YouTube, and he has been live streaming his work for a long while. I've known him nearly 10 years. And I found it very interesting that he, who has a big following, started doing Ada just for fun. He wants to be entertaining. He puts a lot of effort into being entertaining to his audience, and talks about his work and what he likes, what he doesn't like, and he has fun ideas. And this time it was using Ada to program a video game. He saw it. The reason he picked Ada was because it was listed as one of the memory safety languages in the NSA report. That was, well, NSA and the United States Defense and other entities. They released this report, and Ada was listed there. and he found it funny to just program a video game using Ada. And I have good hopes in general that the outcome of his videos, his work, will positively influence the Ada community. He will make a video summarizing his experience. I know he has been having tons of very, very bad experiences with Ada, and let me show you. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay, so there is this forum thread here in Ada Lang that was created by Jeremy, which is how I got to know that Soding, that's his internet name, had been doing live streams, and I started watching them and documenting the good parts and the bad parts, and the general comments about his takes on Ada, what he liked, what he didn't like, what he had issues with, what he preferred to work with, or what he missed or didn't miss, etc. So I've been trying to document everything, and I will use this to give a presentation, a talk during the Ada Developers Workshop in Ada Europe. And hopefully I would like to summarize issues and also strengths of the Ada language community and publicly available resources, which, for example, Joachim also pointed out at the beginning. With the Spark, it was pretty difficult to find any information about it and learn about it. So you're free to just read what I wrote, and also the reactions from many other people here. And yeah, I have good hopes that people will see Ada. He has a very big reach, and I think his takes were mostly positive. He had a mostly positive experience with Ada. Also, his viewers were leaving comments during the videos, and a lot of them were very positive. Like, a lot of people were blown away by Ada's features, such as ranges and safety checks and runtime checks and etc. So once again, I've documented things here. Feel free to take a look at those. But yeah, maybe that's why we've had like quite a few new users in the forum. Maybe they saw it and wanted to try it out for themselves. So I think that's great. And since I've been talking about Ada Europe, here is a nice reminder. Reminder and also news since the last Ada meetup. The prices, the registration costs have been finally published, and the presentation costs for the workshops are listed here. And I would like to thank AdaCore a ton, because they are sponsoring the Ada Developer Workshop, and they've managed to lower the cost from 100 euros, which is the regular cost for early registration, to only 10 euros. So if you would like to participate in the workshop, both as a speaker or as just a regular attendee, it's only going to cost you 10 euros. But here's the catch, or not even a catch. This is just even better. There is a meal included. So and 2 coffee breaks. So in reality, you're paying for the meal basically, which you would have to pay otherwise. So yes, just letting you know, in case you were having doubts to submit a talk, in case you were having doubts regarding whether you would like to attend, the price has been lowered as low as it's feasible or reasonable. So yeah, thank you to AdaCore, and thank you to Fabian, who has been behind the scenes pulling some threads and helping Dirk and I to get this sponsorship. So yeah. Also, just in case, now that you know cost of registration and everything. The original deadline to submit a talk was this past week, March 31st. Nonetheless, if you would like to submit a talk now, a presentation, an idea, you are more than free to still message us. There is no hard deadline, so feel free to just send us a message with the information that we request, and we will take it into account. I can already tell you we've received 7 proposals. All of them are amazing. We still have not formally sent an announcement to the speakers and everything, so it may not be correct for me to just say everybody is accepted, but yeah, and we have some very nice people here, very notable people, very cool projects, and we will announce the talks as soon as we can, even before the schedule. I think it will be positive to let the wider ADA community to know what's going to be talked about and discussed. And I would also like to bring your attention to the fact that the meetup will the workshop will hopefully be live streamed. So if you want to follow it live, if you want to interact and send questions to the speakers, etc., we will try our best to support that format. We also have, for example, one speaker who wanted to give an online presentation. That's also possible if you cannot attend physically to the venue, but still you would like to present. You can do that. And I've been hearing a few reactions. I don't know if there are any questions or if someone has any feedback. Feel free to just unmute and start talking. So.
Oh, I have
That's
a
okay.
comment. I have a comment. It's regarding is it Soden or Sodings, the streamer. So it's interesting that he would pick Ada when I know he's had experience with Rust, and that's all the craze right now. But so did he ever say why he decided to go to explore Ada instead of Rust?
Since I've been following him, I can answer that question as a follower, not for him, but he makes a lot of projects, and as I said in the beginning, he puts a lot of emphasis in entertainment value. So he picks weird ideas and then makes them even weirder in the way he does them. So, for example, one of his last big projects was creating a C compiler using PHP. And he is a multilingual person. So he was very hard into Haskell and functional programming, and that's how I got to know him, and that's how I got to know Haskell and learn the basics of it. And now he doesn't do Haskell anymore. Like he doesn't hate Haskell, but yeah, he hates Haskell. He has also done Rust, he has done C, he has programmed his own language. Like his latest video in his YouTube channel, it's about DOI programming language using Russian keywords, Russian scripture. So that's he tries to do both things, learn new things, entertain, and use technologies, different technologies. He doesn't like to pick just one up. Just one word of caution: if you would like to watch his videos, or once he publishes his summary video, which he has said he will do, to summarize his experience with Ada, and have a big focus on Ada. He is a bit sarcastic. Once again, he puts a lot of value in entertainment, in entertaining his audience, and he is very sarcastic. So sometimes he says that something is great and amazing when in reality he's just being brutally sarcastic, and the opposite also happens. So yeah, that's also one of the reasons I've been doing the summary posts in the forum thread, just to try to break down what he's trying to say honestly, as someone who has been watching him for a long time. So why did he pick Ada specifically? Because he wanted to have fun, literally just that. I knew he had previously used it, and he had kind of liked it. Partially, I think his main opinion of Ada is it's very bureaucratic. He likes the playfulness of C, where you just can. He's a very experienced programmer. He has been programming for 20 years, many projects. So he has his ideas in his head, and he just wants to write them right there directly into the code. He doesn't care about organizing it clearly. He doesn't care about having a good algorithmic structure from the beginning. He doesn't care about cleanliness and being precise. And I think he shows that. You know, his experience pushes him to be direct. And Ada to him is extremely bureaucratic. I mean, Ada in general is very bureaucratic. Especially Gennad. Gennad wants to have the specification in one file, the body in another file. Ada also, like for example, generics. He hates generics the way we have to instantiate them in Ada. You have to very explicitly create instantiate a package with the type that you want to work with, and he found that extremely annoying when in most other programming languages you just put a type where the generic is and then move along. But yeah, we'll see what his summary video tells of his honest actual opinion, because he has raged quite a lot with Ada when libraries were not working. He actually encountered a compiler error, and I think he was able to crash Gennad, which that was surprising. Yeah, it hasn't been great, but it has been good, I would say. So we'll see. So, any more comments, questions?
Just a comment. So yeah, I'm really glad that you give summaries. I'm still, I think, episode 11. So yeah, so it's good to like hear that things improve, because their initial videos I was watching, it was kind of frustrating at times to watch.
Yeah. I think he also, I pointed out to his experience in trying to just be direct. I think he also struggled quite heavily because he has learned many other programming languages, and you can just go into his videos and see him work with everything under the sun. And Ada is very peculiar. We use non-standard naming names. The way we do things is slightly different, and he expects things to just work like the rest of the industry, or what's the most common structures and names and everything in the rest of the industry. And he was very frustrated with that, because he tried something that he knew works pretty much everywhere, and it doesn't work in Ada, because Ada named it slightly different or works slightly different, and that was very frustrating for him. But I don't want to talk too much about it. Once again, I will talk more about this issue in general, like Ada being very different to other programming languages. And I think that's also one of the reasons why even new programming languages that are being created, they all look syntactically the same and they all use the same names, just to lower the barrier of entry, like the how the people, the users have to mentally change their schemas. And I think that's why people market new languages like, hey, this is the new C, this is the new C++, this is the new Java, because people don't have to relearn something new. And Ada is different, but it is different for a reason, and that's something a lot of people don't understand. It's different because it adds value. That's my opinion as an Ada aficionado. Yes, Dirk? We cannot hear you speak. You're unmuted, but maybe the correct microphone is not selected.
Sorry, I have too many buttons here. You hear me now? I didn't want to say anything. I just was realizing that I fully agree with you when you say Ada is different, but it's different for a good reason. And that's really the case. Lots of things in Ada are the way they are after good thought has been put into it, and for a very good reason. Readability, maintainability, all these abilities. And of course, that's a bit more difficult when you start learning it. But we shouldn't throw things out too fast because some people find it slightly more difficult to learn. Of course, we need to educate and provide as good material as possible so that this hurdle of learning is as low as possible.
Yes.
Basically, I agree.
Since you mentioned learning, one of the biggest struggles of Sodin has been the learning materials available in the internet. I will talk more about this in ADA Europe, as I said, but the issue is, I think the ADA community solved, and I like that because they prefer books and longer forms of text. And Sodin showed that young people, new people don't like that. They want quick, direct examples. They want direct answers to their questions, which currently the teaching materials in available for ADA, they don't fully do that. They are longer forms of text with explanations in great detail and everything. I think Wesley has been having his hand up for quite a while. Wesley, would you like to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just real quick, so I still haven't watched his episodes. I only saw one, but um, given that he was like just rushing to try and learn something about it real quick, of course he was frustrated. But did anyone in the ADA community try to point out, okay, you're doing this wrong, you need to look at this or whatever? Is he receptive to those type of inputs, or does he just ignore anything like that because he doesn't want to like backtrack and just keep and learn where he made a mistake?
The way he did his videos is through live streaming, which means he has real-time feedback from his audience, and the thing is, a few of the viewers did know Ada, and they were answering a bit his questions and pointing him out to resources. However, as he has as he said quite a few times, and I actually like this, he said, "I'm learning this by myself, and I'm trying to be as honest and as transparent as I can be while learning a technology." And he likes that the community tries to help him, I believe, but he's not keen on receiving that kind of help. I know a few people from his viewers or the ADA community, even myself included, if you read my posts in the forum, criticized him for basically not reading the documentation and being very quick. He didn't like long forms of documentation, so he just skipped it. And I know he has received a few messages and comments that he doesn't read, and if he had read just a couple more paragraphs, the question he was having would be answered, or a better solution would have been proposed. But as he did say also quite profusely during his live streams, he's there to entertain, and he gets kind of angry quite a lot of times, saying, "I'm trying to do this fast and entertaining. I cannot just spend 10 minutes reading something. I'm not going to do that." So there he has a difficult balance, and yes, the community has been commenting him and has been pointing him to resources. I know he in his spare time has also looked into it. Like, for example, he did an episode on tasking, and he mentioned, like, hey, off screen I've been changing a few things, and I've been reading about Ada and its tasking capabilities, so I would like to learn about those now in the stream. So he has done also a bit of research on his own. Hopefully that answers your question. I talk a lot.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
Weston, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just coming. I just realized that one of the concerns about adopting Ada was like, oh, nobody knows Ada. It's like, what are we going to do? It's like, so that's often an argument for not even exploring it. But this is a perfect example. It's like, hey, like, here's someone who's brand new and they can become productive in less than a month. So that's just so that should be a good example to show people.
I agree, and that was actually his original reason. He mentions that he wanted to try Ada, but he wanted to try Ada fully. He didn't want to write Ada for a couple of hours and come to a conclusion. Therefore, he found this idea, create a video game, a small 2D video game, and write it during the course of several days, during the course of several episodes, exploring the language as he advanced, as he needed features of the game. So yeah, I think it's also a good example on how to become productive, and I think that's why I have the feeling that's going to be a positive experience, and that's the reason also why he wanted to do that manually by himself, so that at the end of his experience, he could do a summary video of like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, summarizing his actual experience instead of requiring people to watch his entire streams and seeing him struggle. AJ, you wanted to talk?
Stuff with documentation, for example. Something I've seen a lot of people do is just point to the spec file, and it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I could absolutely just, one of the great things about Ada is I can go to a library, and what I usually do is just go to the specification file, and I just read that. And just because of the way Ada is, you can pretty much, see, okay, this function does that, that function does that, and it's basically self-documenting. But at the same time, I think that gets overwhelming for new users. And it's like the way I learned, a lot of stuff in Ada was just by reading the source code. And Ada's it's a really easy language just to get in and start reading, as opposed to like Rust. It's a little more difficult. But that's kind of the approach I took to it. And I don't like that approach is definitely not for everybody, but that seems to be the experience I've seen from a lot of people who's learned Ada. They read a textbook. I have that Ada 2012 textbook, the really thick one. Um, and they learn Ada that way, and then they, you know, start reading libraries and source code, and test unit tests and everything like that on how things work. But that's not really the norm in a lot of the newer, I guess, programming communities. It's usually just, you know, I'm trying to have my get Ada installer essentially be get Ada in 3 easy steps, where it's like, step 1, copy paste this in your command line. Step 2, run ALR in it. And we're trying to do that with adalang.io too. But well, until somebody on Linux needs to add a lore to their path, and now they're like, oh, what do I do? That's some things I've just been seeing. But yeah.
Yes, thank you for bringing this point out. So as I said, he was struggling a few times. He was actually doing your approach, the approach of going into the spec files, into the ADS, even from like the compiler ADS files for the actual libraries of the language, and reading them. As he is a very experienced programmer, he knows that documentation may be outdated or may be incorrect. The code is the source of truth. So he went directly to there. And that's why I mentioned that he was struggling with naming and conventions, that Ada uses slightly different approaches to things, because he was searching for functions like queue and the queue within queue structures, and he wasn't finding them because the Ada libraries do not use those names. Also, when he was trying to search for a queue implementation in the Ada standard library, which we have, there are actually several queue implementations in the standard library. He was overwhelmed. He actually searched for queues, and he had indefinite queues or unbound queues and synchronized queues, and I don't know, I don't remember the actual names. And he was, well, I just need a queue. Why there are 5 of them, and which one should I use? And he became overwhelmed and said, Q is a simple data structure that I can implement myself, and he implemented it himself. So yeah, the approach you mentioned to learning Ada is very good. I also learned by actually reading source code. I've not formally read any book or any like specific documentation. Well, general documentation. When I had questions, then I went to the actual documentation. But I've been learning Ada by reading code also. But once again, that has its issues too, as I said. And by the way, I've been sharing my screen this whole time. So, any more questions? Any comments? Any topics that you would like to discuss? Or, I mean, we've been already talking.
If this guy, without knowing Ada, in 4 weeks, imagine what someone can do when they do read documentation. It takes them even less time. I've seen many people becoming productive in Ada in 1 to 2 weeks at most. So it's not such a difficult language.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and the thing that caught my eye when I will talk more about this, the reason Ada caught my attention was because I opened some source code and I could just read it, and I've read C++. I had seen all Fortran code. I had seen C. I had seen many other languages, and that had never happened with any other language. With non-trivial
And don't forget
code.
don't forget for Ada, we have a standard which is publicly available, which is really the reference document if you want to find out how things are defined, especially as well for the predefined library. It's all in there. So if you just look for it, you relatively easily find it. Of course, it's not a textbook. It's not easy reading, but it's all there.
Yeah, I will cover this exact point in Ada Europe. And also, Dirk, you said that that Ada brings a lot of good things, and that's what we need to sell. Since we have Jean-Pierre here, I changed my mind with one quote that Jean-Pierre likes to say in his Ada tutorials. And it's, do not ask what the language can do for you, ask what the language will prevent you from doing. And I think Soding had the exact opposite mindset. I just want to do something, just let me do it. Just let me write it, just let me just go ahead. And I understand that mindset. Okay, you just want to get something done within a time frame, etc. But and I think the vast majority of people, including myself, have that mindset. But I think we also need to do a much better job of communicating what Jean-Pierre likes to say. No, it's not about getting things done fast. It's getting things done right. And there is this other quote. I believe this comes from a psychology book, and it says, "Slow is smooth is fast." And I think that applies quite nicely to Ada.
What I quite like to say to people who complain about Ada compilers being very picky and very annoying to block you from doing what you want to do is that you should look at the compiler more positively, as if you're doing peer programming, but not with a human, but the compiler is your peer programmer and helps you to detect things that you're doing in a non-optimal way. Look at it as your colleague, and then it's not so frustrating that your colleague says, shouldn't you do this differently? Wouldn't it be better to do this in another way? And things like that.
I agree.
Another suggestion.
Though I think that perception has been changing with Rust and its borrow checker, with new programming languages and compilers and tooling becoming better and better, and LSPs and everything. I think the perception of people with regards to the tools and technologies they use is that it's more positive now than in the past. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, it might be, but I still see up to today messages on Twitter or X or how you call it today of people complaining about Ada being so picky and so difficult to get past the compiler. It might be improving, but it's still an issue with lots of people. Okay. Preaching to the choir.
Yes, Weston?
I have a question. So ever since like the articles that came out, mentioning Ada as a memory safe language, and so I was wondering, has any one of you noticed any differences about people's opinion at where you work at? Because I know, like, I think I read somewhere, I don't know who said it in a forum, I'm not sure which one, where initially Ada wasn't in the list, and so the person got picked on for saying, "Hey, see, Ada's not on the list." Like, so, but now that it is, I'm just kind of curious. I know that for sure there's been a nice uptick in new people coming to the forums, and that's really nice. I hope that keeps going.
So I cannot personally speak for myself because I don't work in a computer science field. So, but I don't know if others have a could answer your question. Although I think the general trend is that Ada is now being looked more positively than in the past. The tools have improved. A lot more focus is being put now into memory safety and correctness than in the past, I believe, thanks to Rust, I would say. And people are trying to innovate with new programming languages popping up every single day. And a lot of people are, I've seen a lot of people saying, especially Sodin has been very open about this, that Ada had so many good takes back in the 80s that even new programming languages do not consider. And there was an episode where he became very angry at the state of programming in general. Like, we had this in the 80s. Why didn't every single programming language since then use the same I don't remember what feature it was, but the same approach that Ada did. So yeah. Just look.
It was ranges.
Ranges.
That's what he was complaining about, because ranges were used in, or could be as the index to an array as well as enumerations as well. So that was something else that he wanted.
Enumerations, true. Yeah, using enumerations for array indexing. Yeah.
Yeah, and in 2005, when I came out of the games industry, I switched to Ada after I'd learned that at university, because I knew then that Ada was a better language for games than C or C++ was. There was absolutely the amount of time you could save just by using Ada is immense. You would literally save probably years in the development, because the majority of the time that you spend, you're dealing with other people, and C and C++ don't scale at all. So you're constantly dealing with seg faults and other crashes. So there you go.
So we've been talking for about an hour and a few minutes, so I think it's time we wrap things up. I would like to also say that Kevin Chadwick, another Ada user, has been uploading the audio of these meetups to Spotify, Amazon, and let me check which one was this other platform. Sorry for okay, Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. So if you prefer the audio podcast, or if you know people who prefer the audio podcast format, they should be able to search for Ada or Ada Spark in those platforms and be able to listen to these meetups there without the video, obviously. But it's a nice contribution from the from people from the community, which is what I want to see. So that's great. Yes, Wesley?
Oh, yeah, so in regards to what Luke has said about ADA being a good option for games, like I used to remember that he was the CEO of Epic Games. I remember some forum a long time ago. He had he had expressed frustration at the state of the programmers they use, and he had said, yeah, we should move eventually to a new language that supports all these things to make it easier to program and whatnot. And he listed a whole bunch of things out, and I remember Ada was basically hitting every one of them, but they never chose Ada. They never even considered it, even though it definitely hit every point that he had brought up that that whatever game language they moved to should have. So maybe he'll reconsider at this point, hopefully.
Yeah, and these things take time. So I also want to, one of the reasons I do the things that I do here with the ADA community, I try to be smooth and slow. Like this is a snowball effect. Someone, a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer picks up ADA, they make a series, maybe a few new people come in. Some people improve the tooling, some people improve the industrial side of things, some people improve the documentation, and little by little, that's how things are built. So, yeah. Hey, I would like to see what happens in about 2 years. What's the state of ADA in about 2 years? We'll see. So, that's all from my side. So let's cut it here so that we don't make it longer. The next presentation, the next meetup may take place in May. I don't know if the first week or the second week, because it's holiday season here in Madrid, Spain, the first week. And if Dirk, if you would like to stay for 5 more minutes, Jean-Pierre, if you would also like to stay, since we are going to talk about the conference and that affects you, you may also stay if you want. And Joachim, I'm seeing you now. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for helping, especially for helping a company get a little bit into it. I know they came for you, but also you were willing to help with even if free, just answering questions, and that I think it's an important pillar for ADA to grow. So thank you.
Thanks.
And first, thanks for organizing.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So I will stop the live stream now, and I hope to see you next month. Ciao.
Okay, see you. Good to see everybody. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.